Greetings, fellow humans. Katrina here. Quick disclaimer, I'm a professional, not your professional. Nothing I'm about to say should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. Disclaimer over. So today I thought I'd talk about what I don't know about psilocybin. And I have a couple of different sources that I'm drawing from. One is the DEA, Drug Enforcement something or another here in America. And another one is from a Canadian educational website. So psilocybin defined is simply a hallucinogenic alkaloid found in some toadstools. So if we look a little bit more about what is it, that chemical is obtained from certain types of fresh and dried mushrooms. It has slender stems and it's topped by caps with little dark gills on the underside. Now, the street names include magic mushrooms, shrooms, mushrooms, and how it's used is like ingested orally, or you can brew it as a tea, or some people mix it with chocolate or other foods to mask the bitter flavor. So, its origin. Psilocybin mushrooms are found in Mexico, Central America, and the United States. And if you're curious what it looks like I said, they've got those slender stems topped by caps with dark gills on the underside, and fresh mushrooms have white or whitish gray stems. The caps are dark brown and the edges are light brown or white in the center. Now, dried mushrooms are usually rusty brown with isolated areas of off-white. So, you might be curious, what's the effect on the mind? Well, the psychological consequences of psilocybin include hallucinations and an inability to discern fantasy from reality. Panic reactions and psychotic-like episodes may also occur, particularly if a user ingests a high dose. So how about overdose? Well, the effects of overdose would include things like longer or more intense trip episodes, psychosis, and possible death. That's like a most worst case scenario kind of thing. So abuse of the psilocybin mushrooms could also lead to poisoning if one of the many varieties of the poisonous mushrooms is incorrectly identified as a psilocybin mushroom. So I would say don't go searching for mushrooms in the wild. Which drug causes similar effects? Well, psilocybin effects are similar to other hallucinogens, things like mescaline and peyote. And what is its legal status in the United States? Well, this is straight from the DEA, like I said. Psilocybin is a Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substances Act, meaning that it has a high potential for abuse, and there is no currently accepted medical use in treatment in the United States, and a lack of accepted safety for its use under medical supervision. So that's from the DEA. Now, a little bit about magic mushrooms coming from Canada. So it says that they have been used for thousands of years. There are over 200 species of magic mushrooms, and since many species look alike, it can be hard to differentiate and tell them apart. Now, it is possible for people to consume poisonous mushroom, mistaking them for magic mushrooms. Again, be careful out there. The active ingredients in magic mushrooms are both the chemicals called psilocybin and psilocin. That's psilocin. As psychoactive substances, psilocybin and psilocin, I can't say it anymore. Oh well, they are controlled internationally under the United Nations Drug Control Conventions in Canada, and they also have another thing with Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And under that, activities with magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and psilocin, such as sale, possession, and production, are illegal unless authorized by Health Canada. So that's kind of a cool thing in Canada. So, for example, through the issuance of a license or exemptions under the regulation, then people could get it. So like all drugs, magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and psilocin are also subject to the Food and Drugs Act. I'm sure that's probably similar to ours in America. Psilocybin and psilocin are hallucinogens that produce effects similar to LSD. I mentioned that. The other two I had mentioned, I think, were mescaline and peyote, but LSD acid, that's also similar. Individuals using magic mushrooms experience hallucinations and an altered state of consciousness, which appears within 15 to 45 minutes, and it usually lasts for 4 to 6 hours. So that is a long trip. I imagine taking too much and tripping for that long would be quite unpleasant. When consumed, the effects of magic mushrooms can vary from person to person. In addition, the strength of magic mushrooms can vary greatly. One mushroom may have different concentrations of the active ingredients compared to another, and consequently, The effects of the mushroom can depend on the dose and type of mushroom used. So magic mushrooms sold illegally may be in the form of whole dried mushrooms or in a powder. People may choose to take the mushrooms in a whole bunch of different ways. I think I had mentioned eaten raw or cooked. You can grind it up to make tea, mix in a beverage, swallow as capsules. And some people even sniff it up the nose when it's a powder. I don't ever recommend putting anything up your nose. Magic mushrooms should never be injected intravenously. There have been case reports in the literature of serious harms associated with intravenous injection of mushrooms, including septic shock and multisystem organ failure. Don't do it. So psilocybin and psilocin are produced and sold illegally as a powder or in tablets or capsules. Drugs produced illegally are not tested and may contain other dangerous substances. So the other dangerous substance that's going around out there right now is that fentanyl. So don't do illegal drugs, guys. Short-term effects of magic mushrooms. So using magic mushrooms can lead to short-term mental and physical effects. The mental effects is heightened emotions and senses, and people may feel happy and creative. They may laugh or giggle a lot and experience a sense of mental and emotional clarity. They can also cause hallucinations and affect people by distorting their sense of reality, so seeing and hearing things that other people don't see and hear, mixing up their senses, so they believe they can see music or hear colors, and altering their sense of time. Now, some of the negative mental effects of taking magic mushrooms include changes in mood, lightheadedness, anxiety and panic, confusion and disorientation, fear, paranoia, and nausea. So the physical effects, taking magic mushrooms can produce numbness, particularly in the face, increased heart rate and blood pressure, dry mouth, which sometimes leading to like nausea or vomiting, muscle weakness and twitching or convulsions, exaggerated reflexes, sweating and high body temperature, often followed by chills and shivering, and potentially loss of urinary control. Now, the long-term effects actually haven't been studied, so there's no studies evaluating the repetitive use of magic mushrooms that I'm aware of. Maybe they're working on it. Risks related to the use of magic mushrooms. So what is commonly known as a quote-unquote bad trip may occur, particularly at high doses. These experiences may be frightening and may include paranoia, loss of boundaries, and that distorted sense of self. Impaired judgment during those bad trips may lead to risk-taking behavior, which may then lead to traumatic injuries or even death. So in certain cases, users may experience frequent or overly intense psychedelic events that may induce abrupt flashbacks. So for example, reliving a previous experience. Using magic mushrooms with substances such as cannabis, amphetamines, alcohol elevates the risk of serious side effects and adverse events. For individuals predisposed to or with existing psychiatric conditions, there may be elevated risk of side effects. This association is still being evaluated. For individuals with cardiac diseases, short-term effects such as increased blood pressure and heart rate could potentially be harmful. So be careful is the message. Substance use disorders and withdrawal, actually, there is very little evidence that people can become physically or psychologically dependent on magic mushrooms. However, it is possible to develop a tolerance to the drug's effects with regular use. This may occur after several days of continued use. In this state, even high amounts of the drug will no longer produce the desired effect. So all things in moderation is what I take from that. I really hope you enjoyed this information about psilocybin. And if you want to support the show, click the button on the website. I really do appreciate each and every one of you simply for existing.